Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us, by Daniel H. Pink. Introduction. Are you feeling a persistent nudge that there's more to motivation than just chasing the next paycheck or a pat on the back? Do you ever wonder why some days you're bursting with energy, tackling challenges with a smile, while other days even the promise of a reward can't get you going? You're not alone. For decades, we've been told a simple story about what makes us tick. Reward good behavior, punish bad behavior. Carrots and sticks. It's the bedrock of how most businesses operate, how schools often teach, and even how we sometimes try to motivate ourselves. But what if that story is, well, outdated? What if the very tools we use to drive performance are, in many cases, actually stifling it? In this audiobook summary, we'll journey into the surprising truth about what truly motivates us. We'll explore the groundbreaking work of Daniel H. Pink in his acclaimed book, Drive. We'll uncover why the traditional carrots and sticks approach, what Pink calls Motivation 2.0, is failing us in the 21st century. And the part you've been waiting for? We'll discover the powerful, science-backed alternative, Motivation 3.0, an upgraded operating system built on three innate human needs: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. By the end of our time together, you'll have a new lens through which to see your own drive and the drive of those around you, equipped with insights to unlock higher performance, deeper satisfaction, and a greater sense of meaning in everything you do. Ready to start the engine? First, let's talk about the guide on this journey, Daniel H. Pink. He's not just an author, he's a keen observer of the human condition, particularly in the context of work, business, and behavior. Before Drive, published in 2009, Pink had already penned influential bestsellers like Free Agent Nation and A Whole New Mind, establishing himself as a forward-thinking voice challenging conventional wisdom. Drive itself became a phenomenon, translated into numerous languages and profoundly impacting how leaders, educators, and individuals think about motivation. It took robust scientific research, often hidden away in academic journals, and made it accessible, urgent, and actionable. Pink's work isn't just theory. It's a call to rethink the very foundations of how we engage with our world. So, what if I told you that much of what we believe about motivation is simply wrong? Let's find out. The motivation mystery. Why what we think works doesn't. Imagine this. It's the 1940s. Professor Harry Harlow at the University of Wisconsin is studying primate behavior. He devises a simple mechanical puzzle for rhesus monkeys. Pull a pin, undo a hook, lift a cover. He places the puzzles in their cages, expecting to teach them later. But something strange happens. The monkeys, unprompted, start playing with the puzzles, with focus, determination, even enjoyment. And they start figuring them out, quickly. Now, this was odd. No one taught them. No one rewarded them with food, water, or affection. This flew in the face of the two known drives, the biological drive, hunger, thirst, sex, and the extrinsic drive, rewards and punishments from the environment. Harlow reported, solution did not lead to food, water, or sex gratification. He proposed a third drive. The task itself provided an intrinsic reward. The monkeys solved the puzzles simply because they found it gratifying. The joy of the task was its own reward. But here's the kicker. Harlow then decided to reward them with raisins for solving the puzzles. Surely they'd perform even better, right? Wrong. They made more errors and solved the puzzles less frequently. The introduction of an extrinsic reward actually disrupted performance. It was as if a fundamental law of behavior had been broken. Fast forward 2 decades to 1969. Edward Deasy, a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon, picks up this thread. He designs an experiment with college students using a Soma puzzle cube. He divides them into 2 groups. Both groups solve puzzles. In the second session, Group A is paid for each puzzle solved. Group B is not. Then, in a third session, neither group is paid. During each session, Deasy would leave the room for 8 minutes, supposedly to enter data, telling participants they could do whatever they liked. He secretly observed them. In the first session, both groups spent some free time playing with the puzzles. In the second session, the paid group, Group A, spent more time playing with the puzzles during the free period. They were jazzed up. Makes sense, right? Reward me, I'll work harder. But here's the twist. Just like with Harlow's monkeys. In the third session, when Group A was no longer paid, their interest plummeted. They spent less time playing with the puzzles than in the first session, and significantly less than when they were being paid. Meanwhile, the never paid Group B actually played a bit more. What did Deci conclude? When money is used as an external reward for some activity, the subjects lose intrinsic interest for the activity. Rewards can give a short-term boost, like caffeine, but the effect wears off. Worse, they can reduce a person's longer-term motivation. This was the birth of a deeper understanding of intrinsic motivation, our inherent tendency to seek out novelty, challenge, and to learn. But this third drive, as Pink shows us, is fragile. It needs the right environment. But what does this mean for you, in your daily life, in your career? Are the systems around you nurturing this third drive, or accidentally crushing it? The rise and fall of Motivation 2.0, our outdated operating system. Think of societies Pink suggests like computers. They have operating systems, invisible instructions that govern how things run. Our earliest operating system, Motivation 1.0, was simple: survival. We ate, we drank, we procreated, we avoided danger. It worked for a long time. But as societies grew more complex, Motivation 1.0 wasn't enough. We needed to cooperate to restrain some biological urges. So we upgraded to Motivation 2.0. This system acknowledged our first drive, but added a second. We respond to rewards and punishments. Seek reward, avoid punishment. This became the engine of economic progress, especially with the Industrial Revolution. Enter Frederick Winslow Taylor and scientific management. He saw workers as parts in a machine. Reward desired behavior, punish what you don't want, and the machine runs smoothly. Carrots and sticks became the fuel. This Motivation 2.0 is so deeply embedded we barely notice it. We assume it's the natural way to get things done. But here's the crucial point Pink makes. While it worked for routine 20th century tasks, it's proving woefully inadequate for the complexities of the 21st century. It's like trying to run modern software on an ancient computer. It crashes. Often. Why is it failing? Pink points to three major incompatibilities. First, how we organize what we do. Think about Wikipedia, a global encyclopedia built by tens of thousands of volunteers for free. It defeated Microsoft's professionally produced, well-funded Encarta. Motivation 2.0 can't explain this. Or consider open-source software like Linux or Firefox, built by unpaid programmers. These are driven by intrinsic motivation, the joy of creation, the desire to contribute. Second, how we think about what we do. Economists long assumed we are rational calculators of our self-interest. But behavioral economists like Daniel Kahneman showed we're often predictably irrational. We reject unfair offers even if it means getting nothing. Motivation 2.0, built on that rational actor premise, often misses the mark. If we can be predictably irrational, why can't we also be predictably transcendent, driven by deeper meanings? Third, and perhaps most importantly, how we do what we do. Much of 20th century work was algorithmic, following a set path to a known solution, like on an assembly line or basic accounting. But today's economy increasingly demands heuristic work, tasks requiring creative problem-solving, experimentation, and novel solutions, because there is no set path. Routine work is being outsourced or automated. What remains is the complex, creative work. And here's the punchline from Pink. Carrots and sticks, the core of Motivation 2.0, work okay for algorithmic tasks, but for heuristic tasks, they can be devastating. Are you still trying to motivate yourself or others using an old playbook that might actually be harming your creative potential? The 7 deadly flaws of carrots and sticks, and when they might work. So we have these if-then rewards. If you do this, then you'll get that. Pink argues they come with a host of dangerous side effects, like a prescription drug with a long list of warnings. First, they can extinguish intrinsic motivation. Remember DC's students with the Soma cubes? Or Mark Lepper and David Green's study with preschoolers in drawing? Kids who expected a good player certificate for drawing later showed less interest in drawing freely than those who got no reward or an unexpected one. The reward turned play into work. This is the Sawyer effect in action. Second, they can diminish performance. Dan Ariely and his colleagues conducted studies in India where participants played games requiring motor skills, creativity, or concentration. They were offered small, medium, or very large rewards, equivalent to up to 5 months' pay. The result? Those offered the highest rewards perform the worst in most tasks. The pressure of high-stakes rewards can backfire. Third, they can crush creativity. Consider Carl Dunker's famous candle problem. Participants are given a candle, matches, and a box of tacks, and asked to affix the candle to the wall so wax doesn't drip. The solution requires overcoming functional fixedness, seeing the tack box not just as a container, but as a platform. When Sam Glucksberg offered rewards for solving this heuristic task quickly, the incentivized group took, on average, 3.5 minutes longer. Rewards narrow our focus, which is terrible for creative problem solving. Fourth, they can crowd out good behavior. Would paying people to donate blood increase supply? British sociologist Richard Titmuss speculated it wouldn't. It might even reduce it. Years later, a Swedish study tested this. Women offered a payment to donate blood were almost half as likely to do so as those who were unpaid or given the option to donate the fee to charity. The payment tainted an altruistic act. Fifth, they can encourage cheating, shortcuts, and unethical behavior. When extrinsic goals like sales targets or quarterly returns become paramount, some will take the quickest route, even if it's the low road. Think Sears auto repair quotas leading to overcharging, or Enron's revenue goals catalyzing its collapse. In Israel, when daycare centers imposed a fine for late pickups, a punishment, the number of late parents actually increased. The fine transformed a moral obligation into a mere transaction. Sixth, they can become addictive. Offer a reward once, and it's expected again, often in larger doses to get the same effect. Neuroscientist Brian Knudsen's fMRI studies show that anticipating monetary rewards activates the same brain region, the nucleus accumbens, as addictive drugs. Seventh, they can foster short-term thinking. The focus on an immediate reward can blind us to long-term consequences, like companies obsessed with quarterly earnings neglecting R&D. But hold on, are carrots and sticks always bad? Not entirely. Pink clarifies there are special circumstances where they can be used. First, ensure baseline rewards, salary, benefits, are adequate and fair. If they're not, motivation of any kind is a struggle. For truly routine, algorithmic tasks that aren't inherently interesting and don't require creativity, if-then rewards can provide a small boost without much downside. Think of Glucksberg's candle problem again. When he emptied the tacks from the box, making the solution obvious, an algorithmic task, the incentivized group did perform faster. If you use them for routine tasks, Pink advises, offer a rationale for why the task is necessary, acknowledge that it's boring, and allow people autonomy over how they complete it. For non-routine, creative work, if-then rewards are almost always a mistake. Instead, if you must use a reward, shift to unexpected, now that reward's given after the task is complete. For instance, now that you've finished that amazing project, I'd like to show my appreciation by... These are less likely to undermine intrinsic motivation. Even better, consider non-tangible rewards like specific praise and positive, informational feedback about effort and strategy, not just outcome. Think about a time a reward actually demotivated you, or a time genuine, unexpected appreciation fueled you. Surprising, isn't it, how often we get this wrong? Introducing Type 1 and Type X, the new way to understand motivation. So, if Motivation 2.0 is outdated, what's the upgrade? Pink introduces Motivation 3.0, built around what he calls Type 1 behavior. Motivation 2.0 fostered Type X behavior, fueled more by extrinsic desires, like money or recognition, than intrinsic ones. Type X is concerned with the external rewards an activity leads to. Motivation 3.0, by contrast, depends on Type 1 behavior. Type I is fueled more by intrinsic desires, the inherent satisfaction of the activity itself. For Type 1 individuals, external rewards are a bonus, not the main driver. Here's the good news. Type 1 behavior isn't a fixed trait, it's made, not born. We can all cultivate it, and the benefits are huge. Type 1s almost always outperform Type X's in the long run, achieve more, and experience greater physical and mental well-being. For Type 1s, money is important for that baseline of fairness, but once that's met, it takes a backseat to the work itself. Type 1 behavior is like a renewable energy source, endlessly sustainable. This leads us to the work of Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, who developed self-determination theory, SDT. SDT posits we have three innate psychological needs: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. When these needs are satisfied, we are motivated, productive, and happy. When thwarted, we falter. Pink elegantly translates these into the three core elements of Type 1 behavior and motivation. 3.0: Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose. Are you ready to discover how to tap into these powerful forces? The first element, autonomy, the freedom to direct our lives. Autonomy, Pink asserts, is our default setting. We are naturally wired to be curious and self-directed. Think of any young child. Yet, so often, traditional management and environments flip this switch, turning us from Type 1 to Type X. Autonomy isn't about being a lone wolf. It means acting with choice even when interdependent. And this desire for autonomy is a universal human concept linked to well-being across cultures. Too many businesses still operate on control, even when they use words like empowerment or flexibility. These are often just control in disguise. What we truly need is a renaissance of self-direction. Pink highlights four essential aspects of autonomy at work. The 4 T's: autonomy over task, what people do. This is exemplified by Google's famous 20% time, where engineers can spend a day a week on projects of their own choosing. This has birthed innovations like Gmail and Google News. 3M pioneered this with its 15% time, leading to inventions like Post-it notes. Atlassian, the software company, uses FedEx Days, 24-hour bursts where engineers deliver a self-chosen project overnight. Autonomy over time, when they do it. The antithesis of this is the billable hour, a relic for lawyers that crushes autonomy. The Type Y approach is seen in a results-only work environment, ROBUE, pioneered at Best Buy's corporate office and adopted by companies like Medius. In a ROBUE, people don't have schedules. They just have to get their work done. How, when, and where is up to them. Productivity often increases, and so does loyalty. Autonomy over technique, how they do it. Zappos, the online shoe retailer, is a prime example. Their customer service reps aren't monitored for call times or forced to use scripts. Their job is to serve the customer well, using their own best judgment. This leads to minimal turnover and high customer satisfaction. Another example is home shoring, where call center employees work from home, offering them more freedom over their methods. Autonomy over team, whom they do it with. While less common, some Type 1 organizations are exploring this. Whole Foods allows teams to vote on hiring new members after a trial period. W.L. Gore and Associates requires aspiring leaders to assemble their own teams. Google's grouplets, small, self-organized teams, drive internal change. But remember, autonomy isn't about avoiding accountability. It's about providing the pathway to it by trusting people want to do good work. How much control do you really have over your work? What would change if you had more? The second element, mastery, the urge to get better at stuff. While motivation chapter 2. Zero demanded compliance, motivation 3.0 seeks engagement. And only engagement, Pink argues, can produce mastery, the desire to get better and better at something that matters. This pursuit is a core part of our third drive. The psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, called optimal experiences flow. You're in flow when you're so absorbed in an activity that time seems to disappear, your sense of self melts away, and the effort itself is the reward. Flow happens when goals are clear, feedback is immediate, the challenge is perfectly matched to your abilities. Not too easy, boredom, not too hard, anxiety. These are Goldilocks tasks. Smart workplaces try to create flow-friendly environments. Ericsson, the telecom company, and Green Cargo, a shipping firm, revamped management to help employees find flow, adjusting assignments to match capabilities, leading to increased profitability and engagement. Even in low-autonomy jobs, people can craft their roles to find mastery. But flow is momentary. Mastery unfolds over time. Pink outlines 3 laws of mastery. Mastery is a mindset. Stanford's Carol Dweck identified 2 mindsets: a fixed mindset, believing abilities are static, and a growth mindset, believing abilities can be developed through effort. Those with a growth mindset embrace challenges, persist through setbacks, and see effort as the path to mastery. They prefer learning goals, e.g., being able to speak French, Overperformance goals, e.g., getting an A in French. Type 1 behavior aligns with a growth mindset. Mastery is a pain. The path to mastery is not always fun. It's often grueling. Anders Ericsson's research on deliberate practice shows it requires intense, focused, often unpleasant effort over many years, a minimum of 10, he suggests. Sociologist Daniel Chambliss called it the mundanity of excellence. It requires grit, perseverance, and passion for long-term goals. Effort gives meaning to life. Mastery is an asymptote. An asymptote is a line that a curve approaches but never quite reaches. You can get incredibly close to mastery, but you can never fully attain it. Think of Tiger Woods always striving to be better. This makes mastery simultaneously frustrating and deeply alluring. The joy is in the pursuit. When was the last time you were so absorbed in an activity that time just flew by? What if you could feel that way more often by embracing the challenging, painful, yet ultimately rewarding path of mastery? The third element, purpose, connecting to a cause larger than ourselves. Autonomy and mastery are powerful, but they need a context, a direction. That's where purpose comes in, the third leg of the Type Y tripod. When we connect our desires to a cause larger than ourselves, we can achieve even more. Motivation 2.0 largely ignored purpose, relegating it to an optional accessory. But humans are inherently purpose seekers. Csikszentmihalyi says, purpose provides activation energy for living. Now, with aging baby boomers reflecting on their legacy and Gen Y seeking meaning in their work, purpose is moving to the cultural forefront. This gives rise to the purpose motive, which Pink argues is becoming as potent as the profit motive. Motivation 3.0 doesn't reject profits, but it places equal emphasis on purpose maximization. We see this emerging in three ways. Goals. Traditional businesses are profit maximizers. New models like for-benefit organizations, B corporations, and L3Cs are purpose maximizers. Tom's Shoes, which gives away a pair of shoes for every pair sold, is a prime example. A for-profit company with giving at its core. They use profit as a catalyst for purpose, not the other way around. Words. The language we use shapes our actions. Gary Hamel notes that typical management words like efficiency and advantage lack the power to rouse human hearts. We need to infuse business with deeper ideals like honor, truth, and justice. Think of the MBA oath, created by Harvard students, pledging to serve the greater good and create sustainable economic, social, and environmental prosperity. Or Robert Reich's pronoun test. Do employees refer to their company as they, disengaged, or we, engaged, part of something meaningful? Policies. Companies are exploring policies that foster purpose. Instead of just ethics checklists, which can become an extrinsic motivator to avoid punishment, consider pro-social spending. Research shows that spending money on others or causes increases well-being. Companies could allow employees to direct a portion of charitable giving. Another idea, 20% time with a purpose. At the Mayo Clinic, allowing doctors to spend one day a week on the most meaningful aspect of their job dramatically reduced burnout. Desai and Ryan's research on college graduates found that those who pursued purpose goals, like helping others or learning, and attained them, reported higher well-being. Those who attained profit goals, wealth, fame, reported no increase in well-being and often an increase in anxiety and depression. Chasing only profit can be a road to unhappiness. Does your work give you a sense of contributing to something bigger? What if it could? Awakening your motivation, your path to a Type Y life. We've seen there's a vast gap between what science knows about motivation and what most businesses and individuals actually do. The old carrot and stick model, Motivation 2.0, is not just ineffective in many modern contexts. It can be actively harmful, crushing creativity and intrinsic drive. The upgrade, Motivation 3, is powered by our third drive, our innate desire for autonomy to direct our own lives, mastery to get better at things that matter, and purpose to serve something larger than ourselves. And the most empowering truth is that Type 1 behavior, the kind that thrives on these elements, is not an inborn trait. It is made. It can be cultivated by anyone. And doing so leads not just to stronger performance, but to greater health and profound overall well-being. Daniel Pink provides a rich Type Y toolkit in his book, filled with practical strategies. For instance, as an individual, you can give yourself a flow test to identify your optimal experiences, or ask yourself the big question, what's your sentence, to define your purpose. You could even conduct your own performance review, focusing on learning goals. For organizations, leaders can experiment with 20% time, even with training wheels like 10% time to start. Conduct an autonomy audit to see where employees feel constrained, or learn the zen of compensation by ensuring pay is fair, taking the money issue off the table so people can focus on the work itself. And for parents and educators, it means rethinking homework to ensure it offers autonomy and purpose, perhaps trying a FedEx day for students, and always praising effort and strategy, not just innate intelligence. These are just glimpses. The journey to a Type 1 life, to a Type Y organization, is an ongoing one. It requires unlearning old habits and embracing a more human-centered view of motivation. Now that you've journeyed with us through the science of motivation, I have a few questions to spark your own Type 1 revolution. Which of the three elements, autonomy, mastery, or purpose, resonates most with you right now, and what's one small step you can take this week to cultivate it? Remember the 7 deadly flaws of if-then rewards? How will you rethink their use in your life, your team, or your family, perhaps shifting to now-that acknowledgments instead? What Goldilocks task can you design for yourself or others to find more flow? And what asymptote of mastery are you now inspired to pursue, even if it seems dauntingly distant? And finally, how can you, in your own sphere of influence, begin to shift the focus from mere profit maximization to powerful, energizing purpose maximization? Don't let these insights remain just interesting ideas. Start your upgrade to Motivation 3.0 today. Your most engaged, fulfilling, and impactful life awaits. If this audiobook summary has sparked something within you, I wholeheartedly encourage you to dive deeper by reading the full book Drive by Daniel H. Pink. It's a journey worth taking.